Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Hemmings Hot Rod Barbecue Podcast. I'm Mike Musto, and on today's show, we have Tim Torrecarion from Airflow Research. Now, Airflow Research are the guys that make cylinder heads for your vehicle, and that's everything from your race car to your daily driver for overall improved performance. So they're also the ones that were really involved in our 1981 Big Green Suburban that we drove across the country that you're going to see in our upcoming Hemmings YouTube series. So give us about 3 seconds. We'll be right back with Tim. And yeah, grab a frosty beverage. We'll see you soon. Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome back to the Hemmings Hot Rod Barbecue Podcast. I am back with Tim Torrecarion of AFR or Airflow Research. That's just stringing out those wonderful letters so you know who the heck we're talking about and where he's from. Tim, how you doing today, buddy?
Doing great, Mike. Excited to be on the channel today.
Very cool. So I wanted to bring you on and to just let everybody know, like when we did our big Hemmings Suburban road trip, as you guys are watching on YouTube, well, Tim was kind of instrumental in that because Airflow Research does things like cylinder heads. And if you've seen our big green 1981 Suburban, it's basically like a 5,500-pound green brick. And it came stock from the factory with a, Weezomatic 350 that maybe made, I don't know, Tim, what do you think? 165 horsepower?
If that.
If that. So we had called up Tim and we're like, Tim, you got to help us out. Tim said, well, what about some cylinder heads? And possibly you can. We said, yeah, that could work. And that's what we did. And now our big green is, I'm not going to call it fast green, but it definitely is quicker than it was before, with a lot more torque, which is good. So, but before we really dive in, Tim, I wanted to give everybody a little idea of how you got into the automotive business, because that's one thing we always try to establish is that anybody who comes on the show, whether they're from a company, whether they're enthusiasts, whether they're a celebrity, it doesn't matter. We always try to impress upon people that we are built on enthusiasts. You know what I mean? Everybody that we feature, everybody that we talk to, they're here because they love automobiles and in some way, shape, or form have gotten into this business because of their passion. So how did you get started?
Geez, my first official job in the automotive industry was I was installing alarm systems for brand new cars on dealer lots.
Really?
Or a third-party vendor that, basically we serviced dealerships across Southern California and even to Arizona. And it was one of those things where, the dealerships learned that if every car had an alarm system on it, they would save money on their insurance. And when they were closing a deal, they could make some money by selling it if it didn't come from the factory that way.
Okay. So what kind of cars were these? Give us some insight.
Oh, I mean,
was
the big
everything?
three: Ford, Chevy, Mopar, including Lexus, Toyota, just anything that was on the dealer lot, new or used. If it didn't have a factory alarm system, they wanted it installed.
Interesting. Okay. So you started off doing factory alarms, right? Doing that stuff. When did you move into, and that was on, I'm assuming, the dealer side. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So then you moved into the aftermarket, right?
Yes.
So explain how, because a lot of people out there, I think they try to figure out how to get into the business, right? Whether it's on the aftermarket side, whether it's on the marketing side or the driving side. And you've pretty much done all of them. So after doing security installs, where did you go from there?
After there, I think my next job was I actually worked for a body kit manufacturer in Southern California during the whole tuner scene explosion.
Oh dear God! So you were responsible for like the big flared bumpers on Civics and talked. All right. So
yeah.
Okay.
I think that was my next role in the aftermarket automotive sector. Was slanging body kits for the tuner crowd.
So was that right around like the 2001 Fast and Furious import crowd or what?
It was right before Fast and Furious, and then I left, I think, just after Fast and Furious.
Okay.
Kind of when so import drag racing had just started. And then there was a car show series known as Hot Import Nights.
Oh, sure.
That was really taken off going across the country. That helped grow the segment more. And then I got a chance to do a couple of the NOPI events in Atlanta, in Texas. So that opened my eyes to like how big number one, the car scene is not only from an aftermarket or an import segment, but just as a whole, classic muscle, European, like Nopi, number one parts was, I mean, anything west of the Rockies, I think they were literally like the summit.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yep. So are you an import guy or a domestic guy, or do you just straddle?
If it goes fast, handles well, and looks good, I'm into it. So it doesn't matter, car, boat, motorcycle.
Okay. So you basically just lend to the strength of movement, right? Or if it moves, you're happy. Okay.
I will be honest, coming up as a kid, classic muscle was too expensive. Couldn't afford it. My dad wasn't a car person. He appreciated cars.
Yeah.
But we didn't have the money, for like a 64 and a half Mustang or a 67. Yeah. So yeah, I came up on the import side because that's what was, affordable and cheap, junior high, high school.
Yep.
So kind of graduated from there. But I remember, I mean, even in as early as fourth grade, having a C4 Corvette that I, model that I painted nice and blue, like a grabber blue, put on the aero package. It was just, playing in the front yard. So,
well, I think people forget that, right? I remember when the import scene really jumped on, it was like, I was one of the guys because I was a muscle car guy that would make fun of it. And then little by little, I started getting my ass handed to me on the road. So like I'm in a big block Charger, and I would get these Subarus or these Civics that would pull up that would completely work. And I was like, what the hell's going on here? And it was like trial by fire for me. And then I went through it and I was like, I need to take these guys seriously. And then I started researching and going into that. And honestly, I think it's one of the best things to ever happen because, like you said, they were cheap. And I think the story of any hot rod is that it's cheap. Yeah. So people can get into it, they could start modding, and then it just ignites their passion to move down the road in whichever way they want to go, right?
I agree, and I think one of the things that really helped that scene was, the Hondas at the time, they were like your basic Chevy. Like any motor in that manufacturer lineup would drop right in pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And they were getting mad power. I mean, and the one thing was like a lot of people is, front wheel drive, it's not muscular or whatever the case is, but you had these cars that were 23, 24, 2,500 pounds.
Correct.
And you put 250 horsepower in a 2,000-pound car. That's something.
And that's fully loaded from the factory, 2,000 pounds. That's not stripped out race weight.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that one is one of the things I think people need to, if they go back in history and look at that, it's pretty important. So, okay. So now you did that. You did the body kit thing. Yeah. Then what was next? Because I know you also did a lot of, coaching and driving as well on autocross circuits. How did that come about?
So, as I was getting older and was wanting to do more driving, I had a lot of friends that were in drag racing, but I knew it was expensive, didn't have money. So the easiest thing for me was, how can I have fun in a stock car? So that was autocrossing, open track days, HPDs, things like that.
Yeah.
And because of, I guess, what we'll call extracurricular activities, opportunities popped up. So after leaving the body kit company, I actually ran a motorsports store in San Diego.
Okay.
At the time, it was San Diego's oldest running motorsports store. We specialized in safety equipment. So harnesses, helmets, fire suits.
Oh, wow.
Fire suppression, fuel cells, and then the occasional bolt-on parts, whether it was, roll bars, cages. And we did have a small segment for the Datsun Nissan crowd, 510s, Fair Ladies, the 240Zs. That was really strong with the shop that I was running.
Okay. So that happens. You do an autocross. Now all of a sudden you're doing some basically instruction for people, right? Teaching people how to drive, like thrill rides and stuff like that.
Correct.
And so then how did you come to be at AFR?
So, wow, this is kind of it's not a direct path. It's kind of a curvy road. So left the motorsports business because it was sold, went to the OEM side where one of my customers, when I was running the store, was working for a marketing agency known as AMCI, Automotive Marketing Consultants. And they basically represented every major OEM around the world and in the country, which afforded me to work with brands like Dodge, Lexus, Toyota, Mercedes-Benz, AMG, Rolls-Royce.
Okay.
And during my tenure there, I held roles from vehicle testing as a driver, to a professional driver on closed courses for the AMG Experience.
Oh, wow.
To doing right seat instructions for product launches.
Okay.
New vehicles that were hitting for that model year.
Sure.
And just going across the country, getting paid to drive other people's cars.
That's not a bad gig. I know
It's
something about
not.
that, so that's good. That's all right.
Yeah.
That's all right. Okay, so now you're there, and then now you're doing cylinder heads for some of the best cylinder heads on the market to make everything in the hot rod world go faster. So how did that transition come from going on the OEM side?
So OEM, I loved it. One of the things I wanted though was a little more consistency in work. So
Okay.
representing OEMs and doing product launches in what we call these ride and drive events.
Sure.
They're cyclical. It's kind of like the racing season. You don't start until March, and then you bang hard all the way through end of July, maybe early August.
Yep.
And then you have no work for the rest of the year, unless something, comes along that you're able to jump on. Wanting some stability, wanting to kind of reconnect with friends and get back out racing. Because when you're working, when it kind of conflicts with racing, money's always going to win out. Got to pay the bills. So was looking what opportunities were there, and this was kind of a couple of years after the financial crisis. Import scene was almost dead. They probably took one of the hardest hits after 2008, 2009. And then just kind of looking at the market, it was one of those things, American muscle, classic muscle, it'll take a dip, but it never really takes a huge hit. Right. Because a lot of those customers, their discretionary funds are a lot larger than someone who's 18, 22,
sure, of
24.
Course. Yeah.
And it was like, well, I have a passion for cars. I have a very diverse background. Found a couple openings, sent applications, resumes out. Airflow Research was one of the ones who gave me a chance, brought me in. And that's kind of where we've been the last 7-8 years now. Jeez, time flies.
Yeah, it did boogies. It boogies. Well, it's interesting. Like I said, when we first started doing the Suburban project for Big Green, right? One of the things that we knew we were going to need was power. Because, in 1981, like I said, the 350, we have a 350 small block in that thing, and it's 1981 power, right? So it's the height of the smog era. It's just choked out, maybe making 165 horsepower. And even though we upgraded, like we did fuel injection in the manual, which helped everything, I think the one thing that it was really missing was a bunch of low end torque, and just having kind of that linear power throughout the rev range. And that's the biggest problem, especially when you're doing a 5,500 pound brick with a full load and people in it and so on and so forth.
Correct.
So we had called you guys, and we did the heads and the cam in that thing. And after we did that, my God, I think from a torque perspective, the thing is just so much better down low, and just pulling up hills and on the highway. It's just an immeasurable difference. So I think the big thing is, like, how do you guys at AFR, how do you measure for that? So for instance, when we called and we're like, dude, we need something to motivate this big old truck, as opposed to somebody calls for a big block Camaro and is like, yeah, I need to run nines. Like, well, how does that conversation go if somebody were to call you?
So if someone calls in and they're looking for suggestions on an engine package and so the proper choice in cylinder heads, we always boil down to, what is going to be the usage, or what's the application? Is it a daily driver? Is it a street car? Apologize about that.
Sorry.
Is it a street car? Is it a street strip, weekend warrior, or is it a dedicated race car? Engines are air pumps, so it's basic math. To create X amount of power, you need a certain amount of fuel combined with air, right? With that said, the combination of a cylinder head and a camshaft dictate how much air is able to enter into your engine, ultimately tying back to the amount of power potential that you can produce.
Right.
So when we get back to the application, things such as RPM range, operating range, are we below 5,500? Are we above 6,500? How much cubic inch are we dealing with? Compression? Is there going to be a power adder? Turbocharger, supercharger, nitrous for a lot of the drag race folks. We'll take that into account. And that all comes back to, once again, how much power they're looking to make or what their expectation is. And then just doing some real general math to be like, okay, this is the ballpark you need to be kind of within or looking at. And then we can tweak from there based upon other specifications in your engine combination, from the type of camshaft, how aggressive is that cam, are we talking pump gas, race gas? These little details will determine the proper runner size, the amount of lift that head needs to be able to support, as well as, the ratio between intake to exhaust. Usually anything with a power adder is going to put additional stress on the exhaust side. So when you're looking at those heads, it better have a really strong exhaust flow numbers in addition to just the intake side.
So as the technology has progressed, and I mean, everybody out there is going to see this when we launch Road to Improvement, which is our Suburban series, and that'll be in September. But Tim was kind enough to take us on a tour of the facilities where the cylinder heads are created down at AFR. It is amazing. So I think a lot of times they're like, I'm going to get a set of heads and bolt them on and blah, blah, blah. You have no idea what actually goes into the manufacturing of the cylinder head. And that to me was just crazy, right? You start with these massive blocks of aluminum. They go into the CAD machines. All of a sudden they're milled. But the science that goes into it was very, very eye-opening for me. And the manufacturing process was so cool. I mean, we walked into this warehouse and there are cylinder heads everywhere. And of course you start asking questions like, what can I bolt that onto? What can I bolt this onto? And so, but over the last, I don't know, I'll say 50 years, because 50 years is not that long. You've had the typical small block Chevys, small block Chryslers, small block Fords, but now engines are becoming very advanced, right? So how do you guys adapt with new engines that come out, right? So like when the LS engine came out, I mean, that was one of the first factory engines with aluminum heads, right? That came out. So how do you benchmark? How do you improve when a new motor comes out?
So getting back to your question, how do you benchmark? We'll start with the best examples from the OE manufacturer. That's going to be kind of our litmus test. All right, this is where the stock car is at. What are owners of these vehicles looking to do with the car? How much power are they looking to produce? And is that something we could fulfill on our end based upon our capabilities in-house as far as design, manufacturing, and the understanding of that market? So a lot of it is research up front. Number one is there going to be a need? Because, one thing with racers and gearheads that is universal is we're always going to want more power.
Sure.
It doesn't matter if you're starting with 300, 500, or even 7 to 1,000 with, some of the late models that we have out there, from the factory.
Right.
We're always going to want more power. And it's always a case where you get that brand new, shiny, latest, greatest, whatever. I don't care if it's a Corvette, a Demon. Right. You drive it around, that first go around, you're like, man, this thing is awesome. It's fast. And then about a week goes by and you're like, how come it doesn't feel as fast? I think maybe is the motor starting to give up?
It's
maybe
amazing.
I got on it a little too hard.
Yeah, when it's amazing what you can get used to. And as a former Demon owner, I can attest to that, right? That's a car with, would pull wheel to factories and run, like you'd go to even if you sucked as a drag racer, you could go, and if you did a relatively good hook, you'd run 1040s all day.
Yeah.
Right. And it was just, but then you keep doing it and you're like, okay, like, what do I do now? And that's the crazy part, is that speed is all relative to what you're used to.
Correct.
And so if somebody's running an 800 horsepower motor and they call you, hey, Tim, I'm putting on only 800 horsepower. I'd really like to kick it up to, 1,000, right? Is that like a common thing?
It is actually, we get a lot of those phone calls where it's like, I'm, these are my ETs right now. This is my mile per hour. I need to just get under a certain threshold or into that next class. Or
Yeah,
I want to see if I can pick up 50 to 100 horsepower. What do I need to do?
right.
And it's one of those things. Guys will even come to like, here's the exact model of blower I'm using, or here's how many pounds and boost I'm running. Do you think you have something that can work for me? And it goes back to that. What's the benchmark? What's your
Right.
current package? What have you dynoed at? Where are you really trying to gain? And specific to drag racing, that's where we'll look at the ET, the mile per hour, to determine, is it something in the engine package? Is it something in the setup of the vehicle?
Sure.
Where are they going to be able to maximize their gains for money spent?
Right. So from I guess an education process. So you guys must be, I mean, that's got to be crazy because every time a new engine comes out, you guys must be going, listen, we got to learn on this. We got to re-engineer it. We got to do this and this. So how much time do your engineers just spend figuring stuff out and learning about this stuff? I mean, is it a daily thing? Is it like, do you talk to the OEMs beforehand and be like, we heard they're coming out with this, so we better get our asses in gear to figure it out?
So information gathering does happen on a daily, whether it's reading articles, press releases, interacting with OEMs or, other people in the aftermarket. What are you hearing? What are you seeing? And also being at the races, what are these guys running day in, day out, Friday
Right.
night, Thursday nights? What are the hot classes? What are the trends? Who's really making a name for themselves? Or, I'll go back to no prep grudge racing, right? That's gotten so popular in the last couple of years, but it's not that Top Fuel racer. It's not
Right.
that funny car guy. It's, it's mostly door slammers, small tire,
Sure.
run what you brung, the meat of our market. And that's where, like I said, the information is coming in from various directions every day. Whether we're at an event, at a show, on the phone with an engine builder, one of our dealers, it's always just trying to, stay on top of that pulse, and hearing back directly from those folks as far as what their pain points are, what they're looking to gain, or what they feel is going to give them an advantage in their respective forms of motorsports, whether that's circle track, drag race, pro touring, autocross now.
Sure.
It's just seeing where those gaps are and seeing if there's opportunity for us.
Now, what if somebody calls and as we're both located in California, which is like the mecca of hot rodding for the enthusiasts, but like the bane of the existence of the EPA out here. Like
EPA
California
and
carb just tries to like crush us every 2 days. So if somebody calls you up and said, listen, I need more power. I need another, it's my daily driver, right? What I might have an 89 Camaro and I just want to get more power, but I want to keep it smog compliant. I still have all my emissions equipment. Is that something they can do? And like, can you still upgrade power, but still be legal?
Yes, you can. And actually, CARB is one of the organizations that's really a big supporter of having legal aftermarket parts that customers can purchase and install on their vehicle, and know that they're getting quality parts.
Okay. So that's cool because that's something every now and then we'll get that. A lot of people will say, well, I'd really like to do heads at a can, but I'm in California and I can't do it. So that's not the case. They absolutely can do it then.
You can do it. It's one of those things of, number one, the information's out there, but in my mind, you still have to do some digging. Manufacturers have gotten better as far as promoting what products they have that are legal for enthusiasts that are going to be regulated by some sort of emissions or pollution control laws within their county or state. But it's out there. CARB even has a website where you can go through, you can search by a CARB EO number, which is an executive order saying, hey, this part is legal. It'll tell you what vehicles it's legal for, what year, model.
Okay.
You can even research manufacturers. Like you can search by manufacturer. You can look up Airflow Research. You can look up K&N, and it'll tell you all the CARB certification numbers that they have and what those numbers tie to as far as aftermarket products.
Oh, very cool. I didn't know that. Okay. Oh, so that's very, very cool. All right. So let me ask you this. So what is your biggest mover? Is it still small block Chevy or
Yes.
is it? It is. Is it really?
Yeah. Small block Chevy still reigns as king. Every now and then it does give up that top podium position to its close rival, which of course is the small block Ford. They're
Huh.
duking it out year after year, just like the Mustang and Camaro have been doing, since the early 60s.
Huh. Okay. What about the Mopar guys?
Mopar guys, well, unfortunately, those are the folks where parts are limited, but
Yeah.
there are still legal parts out there.
Okay.
We have always watched the Hemi market and the Mopar fans, and it's just
Yeah.
one of those things. Is there an opportunity? There's a gap that we can kind of slide in and
Okay.
fulfill, the needs of the Mopar enthusiast.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, that's pretty cool. So now, aside from LS, you guys getting into any late model Hemi stuff like the 6.1s, the 6.4s, the 6.2s, stuff like that?
We are. We've actually put out some teasers the last few years.
Okay.
But I'm hoping come SEMA PRI, we might be able to make a nice announcement on some late model Gen 3 stuff.
Okay. I like this because I've got a couple of them, so this works for me. This is good. This is definitely good. All right. That's very, very cool. So, Tim, let me ask you this. Where, if people want to find out about AFR, if they want to, call up, get questions about it, what are the numbers that you call? Where can they find you online and via social media?
So online, it's just, airflowresearch.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. You can direct message us, or you can call us in the office, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 Pacific Standard Time. Our office line here it's just 661-257-8124. And I have techs answering phones every day. You can also email us, just sale@airflowresearch.com.
Cool. Okay. So, well, this is great, Tim. I mean, thank you so much for coming on. You guys will see, like I said, we've got Road to Improvement, which is our new show that's coming out in September on the Hemmings channel, on the YouTube channel. And one of the best mods we did was bolting on those heads from AFR, and they really did make a difference. And I try to impress upon people that I've used just about every product in the business. We only talk about products that we have firsthand knowledge of, and more importantly, firsthand experience with. Um, they work. They woke this big green thing up. It moves. It hustles now, and yeah, I mean, it's just nice when a product does what it's advertised to do. And more importantly, when we did speak to Tim about it, we asked him about the right combination. He spec'd it out. We put it in. Now we got a better truck. So yeah, Tim, thank you so much, man. We really appreciate it.
No, you're welcome. Thank you for allowing us to participate. Big Green was one of those things personally excited me because, it was a daily driver. It was one of those things, the great American family road trip. It wasn't trying to,
Mm-hmm.
Bust out 9s or 7s in the quarter
Right.
mile. It was, I want a car where I can increase not only the performance, but make something that's more durable and enjoyable just to have fun with the family.
Yeah, and that's what you just touched on something, and I want to hit this because this is a great thing. Daily driver. I think a lot of people think that if you do a set of heads or you do a cam, that it's because you want all this extra performance from a race car perspective, whereby we just wanted to improve the performance of an aging vehicle, and that you can put these heads on, and they're like you could put 100,000 miles on a set of daily heads, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and I think that's something that a lot of people don't think about, right? It's yes, you're going to get added performance, but this is not like, oh my God, is this going to ruin the engine? Am I only going to be able to have these heads on for 5,000 miles and then I'm going to have to pull them? No, that is not the case. They've improved this truck since we've did it. We put, my God, I don't know, almost 6,000 miles on this big green thing, and it just hums along and it's better in every way. So, Yeah, just great. So daily drivers, you guys could take care of them.
Yeah. That misnomer that aftermarket parts or souping up a vehicle makes it less enjoyable on a daily is incorrect. It just comes down to the combination of parts or the recipe that you choose. And that's why it's really important to get on the phone or message someone at a manufacturer, whether it's a cylinder head manufacturer, the cam manufacturer, and just talking through what your expectations are and where you're going to be spending the majority of your time with that vehicle. So you can really make sure that the combination is going to be suited for what you want to do. And some of the questions that come up is like, do you have air conditioning? Do you need good vacuum for power brakes? Because if you go too aggressive in one direction, you do lose that drivability. But if you're okay, giving up a little bit of power, you can have something that you can drive day in and day out that's going to be better and faster than stock.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point, right? Know what you're going to do, really figure out a plan, and I think also be honest with yourself as to how you're going to use your vehicle. Everybody wants to tout that they've got 900 horsepower, but in the real world, you don't need it, right? Unless you're really racing. I mean, what you look for is reliability, daily driven performance. If we're talking about daily drivers, that's a great point in regards to air conditioning, because we do run air conditioning in the Suburban. So yeah, like, call them, let them educate you, because I guarantee you probably don't know as much as you think you do. I know that I gained a big education when I first started talking to Tim, and then even greater one when we went down to the facility. So, yeah, be smart enough to know what you don't know, and let Tim and the guys at AFR fill in the gaps for you.
Will do.
All right, Tim, thanks very much for coming on, buddy. And obviously, I'm going to see you at SEMA because you'll be there as well as I. Big Green Suburban will be there, so everybody please go by, check it out. And we'll talk to you all soon. Thanks again.
Have a good one. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks for listening, folks. And again, please subscribe to the Hot Rod Barbecue podcast. If you're on Spotify, check us out there. Subscribe to it on iTunes. And if you are going to go to YouTube, make sure you go to the Hot Rod Barbecue podcast and hit that subscribe button, and we'll come to you every week.